Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul went on Fox News to expose the lies and fiscal irresponsibility of Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill, causing Trump to publicly panic and lash out as a handful of these Republican senators jeopardized that bill's passage. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, I want to play a clip, about 30 seconds, of Rand Paul's appearance on Fox News, in which at one point he just exposes the fiscal irresponsibility of Trump's one big beautiful bill, shutting down the lies that somehow this will reduce the debt and deficit when in fact it will do the opposite.
In fact, this will be the first time conservative Republicans have actually voted for a debt ceiling, and it will be the largest increase in our debt ceiling in our history. And I think it's a mistake because once conservative Republicans vote for this, there is no conservative opposition. They will own it. The debt will be owned by the Republicans. It's no more pointing fingers at the Democrats and saying, oh, they're the big spenders. It'll be all on Republicans' shoulders. And I'm not going to be one of the Republicans who's going to be responsible for this debt. I'm going to continue to be a voice saying we need to cut spending. In fact,
so we've covered Rand Paul's opposition, his mutiny to Trump's one big beautiful bill for weeks, and he's not alone. And one of his major sticking points, if not his biggest sticking point, is, again, the fact, and it is a fact, that it will blow up the debt and deficit. Some estimates, some nonpartisan estimates, say that this will add $5 trillion to the national debt. Okay, so again, by conservative definitions, this is objectively fiscally irresponsible. Now, other Republican senators take issue with the bill because it's going to cut Medicaid. Again, some nonpartisan estimates have the Medicaid cuts up to 13.7 million Americans who will have their Medicaid coverage stripped. So you have a handful of Republicans engaging in this mutiny for very different reasons, okay? Donald Trump saw the Rand Paul appearance on Fox News, and he is pissed. As Matthew Gertz points out, Trump is watching television. Left Fox Business 9:12 a.m., and that's Rand Paul about to show up on Stuart Varney in that clip we just played. And then Donald Trump posts this 6 minutes later. Rand Paul has very little understanding of the BBB, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. Of course, now this is blocked. The tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The BBB is a big winner. Let's see, he live tweeted a Newsmax episode. So he's just constantly watching this stuff. But that's one example. Now let's look at the Mediaite reporting. Trump absolutely torches Rand Paul for opposing his big beautiful bill. Quote, people of Kentucky can't stand him. Donald Trump targeted Rand Paul on Truth Social on Tuesday over the senator's refusal to support his big beautiful bill. And he read the tweet, or he issued the tweet that we just read. Paul is a libertarian-leaning senator known as a budget hawk who often goes against his party when it comes to federal spending. He's made it clear he will not be supporting Trump's massive budget bill, which recently passed through the House by just one vote. The senator called cuts in Trump's bill, quote, wimpy and anemic, and argued the bill will simply raise the debt ceiling and the growing deficit. Quote, in March, virtually every Republican other than me, voted to continue the Biden spending level, which is going to give us a $2 trillion deficit. Now, if you increase the debt ceiling $4 to $5 trillion, that means they're planning on $2 trillion this year and $2 more trillion next year. That's just not conservative, Paul told Fox News on Sunday. In a follow-up post, Tuesday, this morning, Trump accused Paul of not offering anything constructive in his criticism and his opposition to the administration's agenda. He even claimed the people of Kentucky can't stand Paul. The senator was first elected to office in 2010. This is Trump again. Quote, Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy. Losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. Trump's Paul insults dropped not long after the senator appeared on Fox Business, where he voiced opposition to Trump's budget and increase to the debt ceiling. So again, he was watching Fox News. He was watching Rand Paul on Fox News, publicly panicked and attacked him. Now, again, Rand Paul is like the Senate counterpart, of a fellow Kentucky lawmaker, Thomas Massie, who also opposed Trump's bill and whom Trump also lashed out at and threatened. So Trump is clearly triggered by this. He's clearly panicking because he can only afford to lose 4 votes, people, 4 votes. If he loses 3 votes, then J.D. Vance can break the tie and the big, beautiful bill can pass. But if 4 Republicans vote against this bill, the Democrats will be able to kill it. And that's the end of Trump's, single centerpiece domestic legislative agenda. He would then have to go back and negotiate with at least some of these Republican senators and either reduce the spending or reduce the cuts to Medicaid. So we'll see what happens. But ABC is noting this as well. Trump ramps up criticism of Republican senators who could stall his funding bill. Trump is ramping up his criticism of Republican senators who are threatening to complicate the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which advances his legislative agenda. By the way, it's really stupid. One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Act should replace bill because act is what happens after the president signs it into law, so it would no longer be a bill, but whatever. And again, they point out that on Tuesday, Rand Paul said what he said this morning. Trump is working the phones and having meetings with senators to try to get his sweeping agenda passed by Congress. The legislation extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts and boosts spending for the military and border security while making cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and other assistance programs. It will add about $3.8 trillion to the federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt over the next decade, according to the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, CBO, which now Republicans are turning against, even though they were happy to cite the CBO under President Biden. And again, other nonpartisan analyses put that debt increase at about $5 trillion, so it varies. Trump met with Senate Majority Leader John Thune at the White House on Monday, according to a White House official. The meeting comes as Thune faces the Herculean task of moving this House-backed bill through the Senate as expeditiously as possible. Thune has so far not made clear what his strategy will be for moving this package through the upper chamber, but as things currently stand, Thune can only afford to lose 3 of his GOP members to pass the package. And now I'm thinking to myself, did the caffeine hit? I don't know if I said earlier they can only afford to lose 4. Yes, they can only afford to lose 3. If he loses 4, then it's over. But if he loses 3, then it's 50-50 and J.D. Vance can break the tie. So I'm cleaning that up. I'm thinking, did I say that he could afford to lose 4 or 3? He can only afford to lose 3. If he loses 4, and according to Rand Paul and other interviews, they have the numbers to kill this bill. They have at least 4. That's bad news for Trump. And right now, he has more members than that expressing serious doubts about the bill. Trump's outreach so far has targeted a number of senators who have publicly expressed a need to see substantive changes to the House-backed bill. Trump met with Republican Rick Scott on Monday to discuss the bill, sources confirmed to ABC News. Scott is among a group of Senate hardliners who wants to see larger cuts to government spending in the bill. Ron Johnson, who also received a call from Trump on Monday, according to the White House, has been very vocal about his concerns that the bill doesn't go nearly far enough to slash federal spending. And I will note that Ron Johnson went really hard. He's like, his quote was, "I couldn't care less if Donald Trump is upset." Ooh, that is bold. But anyone wishing to change the bill will have to balance the desire for spending cuts against hardliners against the cuts from others in the conference who are insisting that there be no cuts to Medicaid. Changes to Medicaid are one of the key ways the House bill slashes spending levels. So again, that's Josh Hawley, right? So this is the problem, is that there are 2 camps of people who are expressing reservations. People are saying it doesn't cut enough, and others saying it cuts too much in some areas. These are mutually exclusive and diametrically opposed, right? And that's the issue that Trump has. So in order for him to pass this bill, one of these groups or representatives from these 2 mutually exclusive groups will just have to roll over and take it because there's no way to satisfy both of these concerns. So we'll see what happens, but this is not good news for Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which is why he is publicly panicking and lashing out at Republican senators engaging in a pretty high-profile public mutiny. I mean, it says something. Now, Rand Paul, whatever his reservations and fear of Trump might be, is making the rounds on not just mainstream media, but conservative mainstream media as well, saying, yeah, listen, if Trump doesn't come to the negotiating table and satisfy my demands, we're going to kill this bill. That's pretty bold. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.